This is an emergency meeting, and as such, there is no agenda to speak of on an emergency meeting, okay? So I want to just, I would like to make a motion to enter executive session to talk about contract negotiations, which the release of information should be premature would work against us. Commissioner Olwell, seconded. All those in favor of entering executive session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Aye. Okay, and Commissioner Wick?
Aye.
Thank you. And we'll recuse ourselves. We'll be back shortly. I'd like to make a motion we're gonna have a roll vote. I'd like to make a motion to accept the tentative agreement as stated in the last evening. And I will start with Commissioner Judson.
Yes.
Yes. Commissioner Seguino.
Yes.
Commissioner Barlow.
Yes.
Commissioner Olwell.
Yes.
Commissioner Curry.
Yes.
Commissioner Seguino. I'm sorry.
I get
You
two
get
votes.
two. Commissioner Barros-Bedia.
Yes.
Commissioner Clayman.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry. Guy snuck in on me. Commissioner Harrington.
Yes.
Commissioner Wick.
Yes.
Commissioner Porter also votes yes. The motion passes unanimously. We accept the tentative agreement. Commissioner Seguino.
Last night at the end of negotiations, Bob Church and I made a public statement, and in that statement we discussed the fact that we had met several times throughout this negotiation process to try to build a relationship and to build some trust. And so I think it had been very fruitful, and there is, from Bob Church, a lot of openness about a variety of possible models for us to work together in a collaborative way that addresses also some of our past differences and wounds. So what I'd like to ask is I would like to make a motion that the board send a letter to the BEA with the sentiments that were expressed in that statement last night, indicating that we are ready to move forward in a way that is collaborative, builds bridges, and heals wounds, as a sign of good faith to address, in fact, one of the components of the settlement that we agreed upon last night.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Olwell. Commissioner Olwell seconded the motion. All those in favor of the motion as stated, please signify by saying aye. 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 All those against?
Aye.
Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Commissioner Barros-Bedia, seconded by Commissioner Judson. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Commissioner Wick and Harrington. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I'm happy to say that the board unanimously approved the tentative agreement that was reached last night at 8 p.m. You have been given a press release with various components of that agreement, and I want to just add another piece to it, and that is that this was a very difficult process. It was there are some relationships that need to be rebuilt as a result of this, but that is the board is committed to engaging in processes that will build a collaborative relationship with the BEA and will help us moving forward address a variety of the issues, understand the teachers' roles better, understand what they bring to the table, and also hopefully share with the BEA and the teachers some of the context in which the board makes decisions. So we're very happy about that. That actually is a component of the settlement itself, that the parties jointly agreed to investigate trust-building procedures to move on in a constructive way. So we are thrilled that we have a 2-year agreement, and I will turn it over to the chair to make additional comments and to the superintendent, and then respond to any of your questions.
Thank you. My name is Mark Porter. So this is the second year in a row that we've done this, and I think it's most important for me to thank my board for everything they've done. I think it's they've stood fast with the community as representatives. They've been fearless. They've been tenacious. They've worked very collaboratively to come to solutions. we are universal in seeking the closing of the achievement gap. We think it's the most important thing for the future of Burlington. And that's one voice that we all follow behind. And there's a lot of pieces that come to that. And there are some that, there's the collaborative committee that we've done at the high school, which will be trying to save some of these kids before they leave the school system. And there's elementary issues that we want to address because that's the best time to address them, to save these kids and put them on the right path. But this board is unified in that. And so I'm really so very honored to work with 11 people that have certainly changed my life in the last 3 years and how I viewed things. And so I just know we have more to do it, and we have more to do. And there's no doubt in my mind that these 11 people will keep strongly influencing and strongly working for the community for what they see as the future that we need. Commissioner, Superintendent, thank you.
Greetings, everyone. First, I'd like to thank our parents and our students for persevering through this time. A lot of patience and support for the district and for their teachers as well. Today, when I visited schools, I saw excited and enthused students and teachers going back to the things they know what to do, learn, and also create a excellent working environment that's good for students to thrive in their education. We look forward to moving forward in terms of working with our teachers on a number of initiatives and strategies to support closing the achievement gap and to support intervention strategies that will support and nurture our students. Thank you. Questions?
Questions?
Can you highlight some of the items in the contract that you agreed to?
I'll mention the financial ones, and I'll turn it over to the superintendent. So we agreed on a 2.5% salary increase in year one, 2.75% in year two. With regard to health care, we agreed that teachers would pay 19% of the cost of premiums in year one and 20% in year two. And with regard to out-of-pocket costs, we agreed that the out-of-pocket cost for teachers would be $400 for single persons and $800 for families larger than one person. Superintendent?
On the operational side, one of the key factors we're going for in terms of giving our administrators some flexibilities to work in partnership with our teachers to ensure the safety and the well-being of our students. In the area of supervision and duties, one of the areas that was highlighted was around the unstructured, unsupervised times. That's, before class starts, after dismissal, lunch, and particularly recess. We know that's when bullying and harassment happens, and we're pleased that in the contract that we have a partnership with our teachers and our administrators to support students in that endeavor. Also at the high school level, we did able to capture some additional time throughout the day and also establish a working committee with teachers and administrators to look at interventions and remediations that would support gaps for student learnings throughout the course of the day. And those were the two major sort of operational pieces. The other operational pieces are logistical pieces with HR and business in terms of just operating and working with our staff in terms of compliance issues and operations.
What's the duration of the contract?
The contract is from 2017 to 2019. It's a 2-year contract, and I think was stated earlier in terms of the terms of salary within those two contracts. I think at the end, we've had conversations with the BEA around starting a process of collaboration in terms of preparing a different roadmap in terms of how we come to agreements. And at the same time, we're also doing the work with our staff, bringing them back, because there is some healing and some understanding that needs to happen. And lastly, I would say that there will be some communication and outreach to community members to come forward in terms of having a conversation around what we can do as a community to leverage the energy that we have in Burlington to have success for our students.
Yeah, as a superintendent who's worked in a different system in the past, what do you make of the idea here in Vermont of doing away with impositions and strikes? That's a proposal that the legislature is likely to take up What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting proposal. I think now that we're having a conversation, I think we should explore other opportunities. I know in some jurisdictions that has happened. I think there are probably maybe about 48 states that there isn't the opportunity to strike, and they have different steps in terms of going to a different board to make decisions. So if those ideas are being explored in that proposal, then I welcome the opportunity to even contribute if possible.
It took a long time to reach this agreement. Many may wonder which side settled more and on what.
Right.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So it took a long time to reach this agreement. Many are wondering which side really settled more and which on what.
Oh, it's, you know, we're pleased where we are. I think you'll have to ask the BEA for, you know, their perspective on their side of things. We're pleased where we are. I think we represented the community and the children very well in this. We listened to them. We all listened to them yesterday morning. It was face-to-face for half the day yesterday. And so we worked with them to come to this solution. So it's not a who gave the most. It's not that at all. It's what does it come down, you know, what does it come down to? Is it sustainable, and does it achieve all those objectives that both teams had? There's always a different route to different objectives. We're a very different board, but we all want more kids graduating. So that, you know, that's where you can collaborate on how you're going to apply these different paths. And so that's really where it came down to.
How do you think this contract fits into the school board's goal of, you know, moderating increases in property taxes year over year?
Yeah, that, in all honesty, it was never part of our conversation down that. Nobody even brought that up. It was never ever part of our conversation. We know what we had to get to, and we tried to strive to get there as affordably as possible, but nobody ever said the words.
So we don't know how much it will impact.
We do not.
Last night, when you came out of the bargaining session, you were praising how Mayor Weinberger influenced the bargaining session. What exactly did he bring to the table? Was it certain aspects of the contract, or was it kind of an overall influence?
The mediator really was driving the process. I think the mayor's presence lends a degree of gravitas, right? A reminder that the community really needed us to reach an agreement. But by and large, it was the mediator who was navigating that process, and the mayor was there as moral support, if you will. Yeah.
Last night it was 9 hours, and today, how long did it take to reach this unanimous vote?
Yeah, 15 minutes, 10 minutes. We had to wait for a couple of members that were late. So it took us 15 minutes. There were some questions. For clarity, we wanted to make sure that there was just clarity on exactly how things were being applied. Did we come up with a solution? And yeah, please. No, that's fine.
Sure, I think I would like to address that, because one of the board looks to their superintendent in terms of operationalizing this contract. And one of the questions that the board puts forward is, how does this contract benefit students? And so some of the conversation in terms of before the board votes is around what the impact for students are going to be, and how is it going to support. So I'll give you a couple of examples. When we've talked about the safety and well-being of the students in terms of securing them during the structured and unstructured time and the supervision time. We talked about how do we close the gap, what sorts of interventions and strategies that we need, and now we've been able to capture some time during the day that we can develop programs and also have indicators and tracking and have an evaluation process that we can see that our students are moving forward. So that's been a focus for the board in terms of how is it going to affect students. So I think when you asked a question about, you know, who won or lost, I think our mindset has always been, this is what we want for the students, and kind of focused on that. And at the end of the day, you know, we'll figure out what else we need to do.
I think you mentioned that the board wants to better understand teachers' circumstances. Has this experience been an indicator that the board maybe didn't have a full understanding of what teachers are going through?
I think that, you know, the process, the bargaining process is one called positional bargaining. And there are other bargaining models that allow you to sit down face to face and to understand each other's perspective, right? This bargaining process didn't allow that, although I will have to say that for me, and I think for all of the board members present, that the most gratifying moments of these long, long negotiations were the times that we were meeting face-to-face with the BEA, where they were able to explain some of their workday, their what they were doing with their unassigned blocks and so forth, and similarly that the superintendent was able to explain sort of his motivation, and we were able to talk about some of the economic issues. So we really recognize that that's really how you find common ground, is sitting down face to face and being able to understand each other better. And I think it makes it easier to reach agreements when you have that kind of structure, and that's what we're looking forward to implementing.
In the future for negotiations, there would be more face-to-face meetings?
We're going to talk about that. Well, Bob Church and I have met several times, and he has indicated to me there are several models. There's a model called Relationship by Objective, which Mount Abe School District used, and it was very successful in improving relations in the district. So there are a variety of models, and we are going to dig in, and we're going to spend some time exchanging views and looking into these models, and hopefully coming out with a better relationships in the end, essentially.
Any further questions?
Any final word to parents, families, and students?
Superintendent.
Thank you. Have the privilege of giving the final word. I do want to thank the entire board. I know through this process, it's a challenging process because we do get a varied perspectives from the community, and that makes us stronger because it makes us question ourselves and examine the actions we're taking. And we have a very diverse board in terms of opinions, but at the end of the day, I think the focus has been around students, and you can see there was a unanimous vote to support the contract putting forward. Once again, I want to thank particularly all the parents who've reached out and sort of we're trying to be neutral as possible, but supportive in saying that we need to get this done and get students back, and of course the students their indulgence in this time. Although I did have a few students saying, "Oh, they could use an extra day." But with that, I want to thank the community for the support and look forward to a more collaborative approach going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.